This broadcast is the property of Codependents Anonymous. Reproduction without written permission from Codependents Anonymous is not permitted.
Today's topic for the Fellowship Forum, March 26, 2022, is the 12 Promises of Codependents Anonymous. And to introduce the topic, we have James K.
Thank you, David, and thank everyone for being here. The promises are my favorite. They really brought me in, or pulled me in. When I found the CoDA program, my life was in free fall. Everything I had worked for all my life was gone. I was desperate. Here I could finally speak, and people would listen. I met other people like myself, and I was no longer alone. I read the steps and the traditions, but I did not need the rules and have someone tell me how to have a relationship. I felt blocked, numb, defensive, and afraid. I realized now what I needed was hope. I read the promises, and they gave me hope. I related to each one of them. My heart was telling me I needed the carrot and not the stick. I had to sample the dessert before continuing on to the main course. I started to feel a sense of belonging, but then my emptiness and loneliness disappeared. And with courage and dignity, I became willing to take the first step in my recovery journey. It took me 30 months before my heart was opened, and I could begin to accept myself and my part in how my life had turned out. I found love, understanding, and companionship in my home group, and that was the fertile ground out of which my recovery took root and blossomed into each promise I claimed for myself. I started acquiring the discipline to mend my broken life, one step at a time. At each step, I would look inward, and at each tradition, I would look outward. I felt the strength and hope each promise provided. My sponsor and my home group were my handrails, and I gripped them as I raised myself to the next level, constantly looking to the light of my higher power for serenity, strength, and spiritual growth. Week after week, year after year, I looked inward, I looked outward, and I looked up for my higher power's will for me. With the gratitude for the promises fulfilled, I feel myself mend as I look behind me and see all the lessons I have earned, and I know I am aware enough not to repeat them. I have found a new home and acceptance of myself and others. I feel genuinely lovable, loving, and loved. And that's what I wrote for today, David. And I want to thank everyone for coming because I can't recover alone. And I'll pass.
Jim, thank you for being our introductory speaker today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, David.
And welcome, everyone. And so I'm going to open the meeting for comments and shares and feedback on the 12 promises of Codependents Anonymous. And you can raise your hand, or if no one is speaking, you can just begin speaking. Please be mindful of, we now have 26 people in the room. So I'll set a timer for 3 minutes. When you hear the time, you can wrap your share up with if you don't have to stop on a dime. And with that, we're open for comments and shares and questions.
I wanted to say thank you. That's my first time hearing those promises.
Well, thank you. And would you share a name with us?
I'd rather not.
Okay, that's not a problem. Thank you for your share.
I'm Sue. I'm sick at home today, so my voice is kind of crackly. This is my first time, and then it was also my first time hearing the promises. And I'm an adult child, and I thank you for this meeting.
Hi, Sue. Welcome.
This is Jeremiah. I came on just after the promises were read, but this is my first meeting, and I just am looking forward to just taking part in today's gathering. Found out about you guys actually through a book that I'm reading called Codependent No More, and started looking online at different support groups. So just want to thank you all for being here today, and just looking forward to what's ahead for us.
Thank you, Jeremy. And welcome to the newcomers and people here for their first meeting. Congratulations. And it's so glad to have newcomers and people here for their first meeting. That's a very important part of CoDA. The strength of CoDA comes from new members, people who've been here for a while, and people who have been here since before the monuments in South Dakota were carved in stone. CoDA's been here now, I think, since 1986. This is the 35th year of CoDA, if my math is right, and it probably isn't. But it's the fellowship that is the very backbone and strength of this of Codependence Anonymous. And so my name is David. I'm codependent, and I'll take a quick share. The steps are the spiritual guidelines for my recovery. And if the traditions are the guiding spiritual principles for our meeting, for me, the promises are like the hope. So I come to CoDA to share my experience, strength, and hope. My experience is working the steps. My strength is learning to implement the traditions, not just in meetings, but in my life. And my hope is what I learn from the promises. And that's how I handle it. I'm so glad to hear people say that this is the first time they've heard the promises. They are the light tower in the distance guiding me home. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and because of the promises, I know it's not a freight train coming right at me. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Pass. Carrie, I see your hand up. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought I'd do a short share. My name's Carrie. I identify as codependent. And recently I had a voice message from a family member, and I think a text. Anyway, and who said, give me a call. And I was like, yeah, okay. And just my life right now, it's really hard to call anybody, but I replied to her that I would call when I could, and that is her brother okay? And she didn't respond back to the tweet. And anyway, I recalled our previous conversation, and I started to think, oh, maybe she's trying to censor me again, my conversations. And I'm like, okay, this is a highly codependent thing. At least I recognize that. And I thought to think, well, I'll call her when I can. I thought, okay, that's pretty healthy. And then I started thinking, I don't have to call her at all. Like I'm pretty sure that's a healthy thing. And especially because she didn't reply to my text. So I still struggle with that, and I'm obviously learning a lot, and this is a learning experience, but I really don't feel comfortable calling her. but I want to. I don't want to say I should. I want to, in the sense of to assert my voice, and let her know how I feel in a constructive way. But I'm not ready, I guess. And so I don't know if anybody wants feedback. Give me feedback on that. I would appreciate it. Thanks. And I'm done.
Sure.
Thank you for your share, Carrie. People, if you would save your feedback for after the meeting, because we are recording now, and we do have a topic for today's meeting, the 12 Promises of Codependence Anonymous. Eden, I see your hand up. Welcome. Would you like to share today, Eden? You had a hand up. Do you have a question or share? Not hearing you, Eden. I know you're not muted.
She's not muted.
No, not muted. Eden, I hope you can get your audio issues resolved and come back and try again. Open for shares on the topic of the 12 Promises of Codependence Anonymous. How do they help me in my recovery? Perhaps since I missed the announcement, the reading of the 12 promises, how about I share them on the screen again? Is there someone who is willing to read the 12 Promises of Codependence Anonymous for us today?
Hi, my name's Jeannie. Do you
Hi,
hear me?
Jeannie, welcome.
Hi. Oh, there they are. I was going to read them from my book. I'm new as well, and I like what I've heard so far. I can expect a miraculous change in my life by working the program of Codependence Anonymous, as I make an honest effort to work the 12 steps and follow the 12 traditions. Number 1, I know a new sense of belonging. The feeling of emptiness and loneliness will disappear. 2, I am no longer controlled by my fears. I overcome my fears and act with courage, integrity, and dignity. 3, I know a new freedom. 4, I release myself from worry, guilt, and regret about my past and present. I am aware enough not to repeat it. 5, I know a new love and acceptance of myself and others. I feel genuinely lovable, loving, and loved. 6, I learn to see myself as equal to others. My new and renewed relationships are all with equal partners. 7, I am capable of developing and maintaining healthy and loving relationships. The need to control and manipulate others will disappear as I learn to trust those who are trustworthy. 8, I learned that it is possible to mend, to become more loving, intimate, and supportive. I have the choice of communicating with my family in a way which is safe for me and respectful of them. 9, I acknowledge that I am unique and precious creation. 10, I no longer need to rely solely on others to provide my sense of self-worth. 11, I trust the guidance I received from my higher power and come to believe in my own capabilities. 12, I gradually experience serenity, strength, and spiritual growth in my daily life.
Thank you for reading the 12 promises for us today, Jeannie. And we are open for shares on the topic of the 12 promises. How do they help me in my recovery journey? And you can raise your hand. If no one's speaking, you can just begin sharing. I do have a 3-minute timer. If you do hear the timer, just wrap share up if you would. Terry, I see your hand up. Welcome, and you will be followed by Marilyn. Pardon me, Marilee. Thank you. Terry?
Hey,
Continue.
this is Terry. I'm codependent. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for this topic. And wanted to share in general that when I first came to CoDA, every meeting we read the promises and
you on your oh, they can't see me, huh?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
excuse me, would everyone be able to mute,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah. If you're not sharing, please mute. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll continue. As a
Thank you, Terry.
newcomer, yeah, thanks. As a newcomer, these promises that were read at every meeting gave me a lot of hope, but they also brought a lot of feelings up, a lot of sadness, because these are the things that I had always wanted in my life and were not happening. My life was extremely dysfunctional, and integrity, dignity. I didn't feel free. I definitely didn't have equal relationships. So these are the things in the healthy and loving relationships that I was looking for. And knowing that these promises came true and come true for people who work the program of Codependence Anonymous gave me so much hope, and I just kept coming back. For me, each of these link, in my experience of recovery, there are links in these to each of the different patterns of codependency and how that shows up for me. And as I started gaining awareness on where my denial came in, where my low self-esteem came in, where my compliance came in, where my control patterns were, and where I was avoiding, really this one about awareness. Let me look through. Number 4, promise 4, I release myself from worry, guilt, and regret about my past and present. I'm aware enough not to repeat it. That part about awareness is so big for me throughout my recovery. Recovery really is a process of awareness for me. It's undoing all of the denial that I had hid in for my own safety, and knowing that I wasn't alone anymore. And I started to develop tools and had steps to work through all the worry, guilt, and regret, and all the dysfunction that I became aware of as I sought to learn how to not repeat my past. So that awareness is so big for me. This whole program is a program of awareness for me. I gained so many insights, and it might seem like I'm learning the same lesson over and over again. Maybe I'm becoming a boundary queen because I have to set boundaries so many times. Maybe I'm the same thing, but from that awareness, I do learn other ways and get that chance to choose something else that is healthy for me, safe, and respectful of others. So that's what I'm connecting with right now, what I wanted to share, and looking forward to everyone else's shares. With that, I pass.
Thank you for your share, Terry.
Sure.
Marilyn, I see your hand up. Welcome.
Hi there. Thank you. This is a wonderful topic, and I've been in a few years. And I want to say that one of the big things that really kept me coming in the beginning were both the promises and the recovery patterns. the picture of what could be. I knew enough already about what my problems were, where I was unhappy, how I was falling short. I'm quite capable of judging myself and others. I didn't need any help with that. Identifying that I was codependent was easy enough, but figuring out how to change it, having these sort of goalposts of these different phrases and behavior patterns that I assumed that since they were written out, that somebody had experienced it and figured it out, and that's where this stuff came from, that we grew out of the AA program, and specifically for our codependent needs. And so I felt like this was a safe, well-traveled road that I could join others in. And then hearing people in the meetings, telling parts of my story, I definitely felt like I was finally part of a group. I wasn't alone anymore. And it took me a very long time. I kept looking at the differences. I was a different kind of codependent before I started looking more for the similarities and how I can benefit, not just balance with the other people, but benefit from their lessons and their stories. And to see that I wanted to be more like they were saying they didn't want to be was an interesting place to be. And yet it was still, I was a full-fledged member, and I still am. And the biggest piece of this is that it's created a really solid place for me to see myself as someone capable of change. And so I have been able to branch out into other programs and also embrace change in other ways. And I want to say at a much faster speed because I have this as such a solid foundation of change and support. So I'm grateful for the promises and what I'm looking forward to continually. I'll never get there. Perfection isn't part of being worthy, and I am worthy. Thank you. I'll pass.
Thank you for your share, Marilee. And we are open for questions and shares on the topic of the 12 Promises of Codependence Anonymous. Perhaps you have a favorite promise you'd like to share with us today. Mine is promise number 8. I learned that it is possible to mend, to become more loving, supportive, and intimate and supportive. I have the choice of communicating with my family in a way which is safe for me and respectful of them. Any questions, comments, feedback on the 12 Promises of Codependence Anonymous?
I have a question.
Yes.
For number 7, where it says, the need to control and manipulate others will disappear as I learn to trust those who are trustworthy.
That's, I believe, is that the promises? Yes, sorry. I wasn't reading it properly. Continue, I'm sorry.
Can you expound on that?
The need to control and manipulate others will disappear as I learn to trust those who are trustworthy. Excellent question. Would anyone like to respond to that question? before I do.
I think I can answer my own question. Sometimes that happens. You have to just.
Oh, would you like
your
to?
brain's like.
Would you
ahead.
like to share your answer for that with us? I'd like to hear your answer.
Okay, so when you trust someone, when they've shown that they're trustworthy, you can just speak to them openly and honestly, of course, being respectful and taking their feelings into consideration, but you are able to ask for what you want or need and respect the answer that they give.
Well, good.
That's all I have to say.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question, and I'm glad you gave an answer for us. Did anybody else like to come in on that question, on that promise?
Yeah, this is James. I'd like to comment on that.
Welcome, James.
I spent a lot of years in my life and I wasn't trusted at all. And when I came to CoDA, I learned to trust myself. And once I learned to trust myself, then I started to discern who I could trust and who I couldn't trust. Before I came to CoDA, my whole life was in other people. It wasn't in me anymore. So when I learned to trust myself and be true to myself, then I started to be able to trust, to discern who was trustworthy. A lot of times I trusted people that were totally unworthy of my trust. And as I backed away and I saw life in a different way, when I came to CoDA, I could see who I could trust and who I couldn't trust. And that was a big hurdle for me. And if I could continue, a lot of the, when I made my thing up, well, no, just let me answer the question. And that's my answer to the question, is that we as codependents have to learn to trust ourselves. And then things in life becomes more clear. And I'll take another share for the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Anyone else on promise number 7? I learned I am capable of developing and maintaining healthy and loving relationships. The need to control and manipulate others will disappear as I learn to trust those who are trustworthy.
This is Marilee.
Yes, Marilee, welcome.
Thank you. I just have one little caveat that I like to share, in my opinion, that most people are trustworthy in some areas and not trustworthy in all areas. And so there's some discernment that I like to encourage my sponsees to use when discussing topics and figuring out what's safe and what's not safe with someone. Nobody's perfect. And so we get to take the good parts and stay away from the less good parts for us. So just not taking that as a black and white. One person is trustworthy in 100% of all areas, I think, is a misunderstanding of the intention, or of what's healthy for me anyway. I'm understanding that last piece. Pass.
Thank you for your share, Marilee. Anyone else on promise number 7? Trustworthiness and maintaining healthy and loving relationships. The need to control and manipulate others.
Hey, can I speak? David?
Sure. Please.
I
Donna B., welcome.
Thank you. So this is how I feel. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is how I feel. I feel that I receive manipulations from others, but I don't feel that I'm manipulating others. I give them the option, if you're not happy with me, you can leave. I just need to be in a certain manner, but I feel like I'm being caught up into this web that creates not a healthy relationship. And I try my best, I really do, but I don't think I manipulate the situation. I try to be not biased. I try to not be judgmental. I try my best. No, I am not perfect. I do get provoked and I start getting upset. I start getting angry. I start getting to just cry, and all the emotions do come in. But there's got to be like a rule of thumb for me as to when is enough, and I just can't seem to answer that question to myself, because I've been in a relationship for 18 years, and it just doesn't. There's never a really good ending. I have tried to be hopeful. I have tried to do everything in my power to help. I've been called enabler. I've been called every name in the book. And it just, for me, it's not healthy. So how do I get out of it? I don't know how I can get out of it. That's it.
Thank you for your share, Claudia. Donna B., did I see your hand up?
Yes, you did.
Would you like a share, or do you have a question, Donna B.?
Oh, I'll share. Thank you, David, and thank you for
Welcome.
being here. Thanks. And excuse me, thank you for the forum. What I really want to share is more on all the promises and how they've really been coming true in my life. And I like that saying, we do not think ourselves into new ways of living. We live ourselves into a new way of thinking. And it's not new for 12-steppers to hear something like that. And the words faith without works is dead. And for me, I'm always going to be codependent. And for me to start changing the way I think is just start taking little bits of action in that direction. I once heard somebody say, you can't drive a parked car. And for me, it's just to put my best effort forward into changing those things that I can about my codependency. And for me, it was, I needed to learn and act on some internal boundaries. And it really didn't have anything to do with anybody else, but it really stopped me from trying to control or manipulate or react to other people. And these internal boundaries that I'm setting in myself was giving me my power back and my safety. And I just started living a better life. You know, I was watching the nominations for the Supreme Court and watching this very brilliant, intelligent, strong woman or person getting peppered what I would call these sexual jackasses, you know, and I watched the way she reacted or responded. There was a really, really long pause where she didn't say anything. And it was like, is this worth risking everything I've ever worked for or wanted in my life? And for me, the amount of risking all the peace and serenity I've had worth in reacting or in just a few moments of telling somebody what I think or trying to get somebody else to live a different way, even if I would hope they would for their own happiness. It's not up to me. It's really not up to me. And I was taught that early that if God would love me if I did this and I did this, and people would love me and I'd be safe if I would just do what they say or this thing and the other thing. And the truth is, I have been loved all along. I don't need to do anything. I just need to experience that love and keep experiencing that love every day forward that I go in codependency. And I find a lot of strength in the meetings. I also find a lot of strength in just being with myself and being quiet and feeling that love that has been there all along. I don't need to reach outside of myself to anybody anymore. And I just love this program, and I just wish peace and good for everyone. And thank you for sharing.
Thanks for your share, Donna B. We have time for one more share on the topic of the promises. Your favorite topic, your favorite promise, excuse me. I'll take this opportunity to mention that the Arizona CoDA Events Committee, which you can find at azcoda.org, every Saturday afternoon has a speaker event, and this year they are featuring the promises. There's not a lot of material on the promises yet in the books that we have. I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat that come from two links, one from Arizona CoDA, people talking in meetings, CoDA meetings about the promises, their experience with the promises, and also from the Sydney, Australia, actually not Sydney, Australia, but Australia CoDA Alliance, the South Asia CoDA Alliance there, has also written some material on the promises. I think that there'll be more information coming out on the promises from CoDA. Remember, in CoDA, to support unity, we like to use the CoDA approved literature. I know there's lots of really great material out there from other sources, but within these meetings, we do like to stick to CoDA approved literature. Thank you so much. Any last thoughts or anyone with a pressing need to share? There will be time for questions, comments, and feedback after we close the meeting. So give me a chance to get some of this stuff together here. The next fellowship form is, there's a good thing to get together, going to be April. The last Saturday in April is the 30th. And the topic will be boundaries and jealousy. There's a hot topic. And also, next month in May, the topic will be step 1, powerlessness. And then in June, I would like to revisit the topic from February, which was trauma bonding. There was some very pointed comments posted to the YouTube channel about people who felt that was an inappropriate topic for CoDA. And I would like to reopen that topic for comments, feedback, and shares on the topic we had in February. So that's what's coming up at the Fellowship Forum in the coming months. And of course, the Fellowship Forum meets on the last Saturday of each month. And the next meeting will be April 30th, 12 noon Pacific time, 1 p.m. Mountain time, except for most of Arizona, which does not observe daylight saving time, 2 p.m. Central time, and 3 p.m. Eastern time. If you would like to be a speaker or you have a topic for the forum, you can let me know in the meeting or send an email to the send a message to the fellowship, to the communications committee, and I'll put that link in the chat. Just give me a minute. And we'll close the meeting with the CoDA closing prayer, which I will share on the screen, or try to. Here we go. Okay. And you are welcome to unmute and say along with me. CoDA closing prayer. We thank our higher
Higher power
for all
that we have
received
received
from
from this meeting.
this meeting.
As
As we
we
close,
close,
May we
may we
take with
take
us
with us
the
the
wisdom
wisdom, love,
love,
acceptance,
acceptance,
and
and
hope
hope of
of
recovery.
recovery. Thank you all for being here.